Howdy everybody, over my Twitch channel I recently played through almost every Sonic the Hedgehog game, includes all the Sonic mainline like 2D ones and 3D ones. There's a lot of spin-off ones I didn't want to bother with, but Sonic is controversial. A lot of people think it's like the worst game series, there's never been a good game. That's not true. If anyone ever tells you that Sonic's never had a good game, they're lying. But Sonic has had bad games, and the worst bad game, the worst Sonic game. You know, some people, it comes to mind like Sonic 06 or Sonic Boom, but most of the time, those games are just kind of boring. Tails Sky Patrol for the Game Gear is one of the only games I've ever played that made me reconsider if I should just be playing video games at all. And you know what? I beat it. Originally, when I was playing all of these over on my Twitch channel, I ended up quitting like 2 stages in. It's only a 5-stage game. It's only like 15 minutes. If you got really good at it, would not take you very long at all. But the reason I was able to beat it was because of save states. So since save states exist, I wasn't driven totally into madness. But I could only imagine being the little brother that got stuck with this game in the 90s. Let's talk about Tails Sky Patrol. Many of you would not have heard of it because it was not released in America. It was only released in Japan. But outside of Japan, you were able to unlock it in Sonic Adventure if you got all 130 emblems, which is all of the emblems. So, you know, if you really wanted to work that hard just to get this game, I'd have to ask, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You shouldn't do that. That's not a good thing to do. You need to get your priorities straight. Maybe seek a therapist. You were also able to just play it on the Sonic Gems collection. The Sonic Gems collection, including Tails Sky Patrol, also includes Sonic the Fighters and Sonic R. I don't know if I would say that those are gems, but they are definitely Sonic games. I digress. Let's talk about what let's look at the actual gameplay, what I dislike. I was going to say what I like, but I didn't like any part of this. This was really a miserable experience. Okay, so first off, the auto-scrolling, auto-scrolling levels in platformers. Nobody likes them. They're always included, and they're put there to offer like a little extra challenge, shake it up, give you a little bit of variety. But this whole game is an auto-scroller. It's also an auto-flyer. What that means is that Tail cannot touch the ground. He also can't touch walls, or it's an auto-death. So you don't get to go at your own pace at all. And you would think that, well, maybe the game would be gentle on you since it's just so awkward. Nope. I died several times in the tutorial section, just trying to be able to go up and down without, running into something. You see that little yellow bar in the corner? If that bar runs out, Tails is toast. To fill that bar, you need to collect pieces of candy that come in variations of 1 to 3 pieces. The more pieces you get, the more the bar fills. Tails attacks with a ring that he holds onto the entire game. That ring also dictates how you interact with obstacles in the stage. Since you're constantly moving to the right and Tails' speed when traveling vertically is abysmal, you have to grab onto balloons to go up rapidly and 10-ton weights to go down. There's also blue obstacle things that when Tail gets locked onto them, they'll send him in a dedicated direction. Sometimes he scrolls around the whole thing, sometimes he just flies to the left, the right, up, down. Besides the candy, there's one other collectible in the game. It's like a small JPEG of a Chaos Emerald. It doesn't really do anything for you, except give you more points, which you can get extra lives with, but I think that only happened to me once or twice throughout the entire game. The main antagonist of Tails Sky Patrol is a witch. There might be a manual that goes into why in the world you'd be fighting a witch as Tails, but the game doesn't really delve into it, and I don't respect this game enough to look into it further. You also fight some animals along the way that are also in little auto-scrolling cars. There's a fox, a bear, rabbit, and then the witch. Those are the 4 bosses. To be able to fight them, you essentially grab them with your ring and just fucking fling them into the wall. You just take them out. That all seems simple enough. Well, you'd think so, but the amount of screen real estate means you're constantly being bombarded at all sides, allowing for no time to think and barely any time to react. I was only able to beat it, as I said previously, due to save states, and even then it was still a pain in the ass. The controls are so awkward and stiff that I thought I was going to get an aneurysm just trying to get past the tutorial. Anytime you get tapped by one of the constant barrage of enemies running into you or their projectiles, you'll get sent tumbling down to the bottom of the screen. You just want to tap for dear life on any of the buttons so that Tails can fly back up so he doesn't go home in a casket. There's also bells that act as checkpoints. So the first boss is the wolf. It took me a while to realize I need to actually grab the bombs that he's throwing out and throw them back at them. I don't know whose instinct it would be to try to grab onto one of these things in the tight corridor that you're in to actually be able to fling it back to it. But a couple bombs down and he's out for the count. Next up is the Ruinwood area, which is populated by skeletons and these enemies that make more of themselves. They're like little balls that looks like the Snake game. You know, if you are old enough to remember Snake, where it's like you grab another one of the little balls, the snake gets longer, kind of like that. But hard to say what exactly it actually is, though. But the very fragile little soy boy Tails insta-dies when you touch them. So, you know, you'll just want to slam your ring attack as much as possible and just pray to God. You then fight a bear who's chucking pellets at you as you attempt to grab him with your ring and slam his head against the ground. After you defeat him, you go to the second to last area, which is Metal Island. It's a sort of flying fortress zone, except it's all separated out as you fly through the clouds. This one went pretty quick since I was able to just hold right down without running into the wall. The boss fight of this area is a bunny who throws kisses and carrots at you. This fight is a confusing mess. You have to grab her with your ring and chuck her into the nearby rockets. They look like rockets, but it's more just like a flying piece of metal. It's incredibly frustrating because you have to stun them and then grab a hold of them and then fling them into the rocket. But to position yourself correctly, it is atrocious. It is unbearable. I hated it. After you defeat the Kissy Rabbit, you then go to the last area, which is the Dark Castle. Looks a little bit more like a Casino Zone stage, but that doesn't matter. After a barrage of cannon fire and balls to the face, you finally make it to the last boss fight. It's just the witch. It's a witch. I don't know. Again, I can't comprehend why you wouldn't maybe make it like Eggman, or if it's just because it's Tails, then he doesn't. Tails has his own thing going on, but yeah, I guess Tails in his free time, he fights witches. She throws projectiles out of a rail car on a track that goes up and down every 2 seconds, which makes it very hard to grab hold of her without running straight into the wall. It took many attempts, but I finally got rid of her. And that's it. It just ends. Just ends without any fanfare. What a miserable game. If you perfected this game, as I said before, if you perfected this game, it would take you maybe 15 minutes. But why in the world would you? I was planning on just making another short to review this one, but it was so frustrating. It's so bad. And it's hard to describe how bad the feeling is and the vibes are of this game, but it is so terrible. Yeah, this is the worst Sonic game. It's worse than Sonic Boom. It's worse than Sonic 06. It's worse than the Wii games. It's worse than Sonic the Hedgehog 4. This is it. The single worst Sonic game. I hate this game. And now if anyone ever asks you what you think the worst Sonic game is, you can finally give the correct answer. Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to like and subscribe if you're just a freak like that.